my father was away a lot of the
Okay.
time. My father was an actor.
Yeah.
My father was an actor, and he worked on a lot of projects, and he was out of the country, filming in
Yeah. Yeah.
India, London, kind of pretty much, all over the
Yeah.
place. So he was, he was out a lot of the
Yeah.
time. He was an entrepreneur, so he was always busy. He always had his, his fingers in so
Yeah.
many different pies. But whenever he came home,
Yeah.
it was all about his kids. I mean, at the time, there were just two of us. And, well, I mean, it was me for the first three
Mm.
years, and then my sibling came
Okay.
along, and then my younger brother, and then there was another brother who came along. I think it was probably another 4 years after that.
But sorry,
So
you've mentioned that you're the eldest brother of four, right?
I'll
Oh,
go
the
for
eldest four. Okay, brother.
yeah.
Okay.
So for the first few years, the first 9 to 10 years, we lived in that extended family.
Okay.
So my grandfather, rahimahullah, was around at the time. My uncles were there. So even though Dad wasn't there, I never felt the absence of a father as such or a father figure.
What was the
So there was always somebody there who could kind of, for you to
ah
accountability really. So you were always kind of held to account. You always had that father figure
okay.
around, somebody to, do the parks with you and,
Mm.
do that kind of stuff with you. But when my father came home, he was very
Okay.
attentive, and he made you feel like the whole world revolved around you. He was a good attentive father
Bro,
when
so
he was there.
it actually sounds like that there was a community, like so that your dad's brothers and stuff like that. Was that back home or
Yeah.
here, bro? Like, oh, was it?
Here,
Okay,
no, here, it was
okay.
here.
Oh,
Yeah,
mashallah.
it was here. I mean, when I say he only had my father had one older
Okay.
brother who he still has, he's still
Yeah.
around, and one younger than him. They were the two mainly that were of
Yeah.
age of looking after us.
Okay.
So it was kind of like them two, and then there was my grandfather
Yeah.
who was around. I had my grandfather on my mother's side who lived quite nearby,
Okay.
and then my grandfather on my dad's
Yeah.
side who was kind of the head of the house, and he was the nicest, kindest, most loving man you
Yeah.
could ever meet in your life. I mean, to this day, I mean, I'm 45
Oh,
now, and
mashallah.
I've still never met a man like him.
Oh.
I've never met a man like him. Yeah, Rahimahullah, may
Mm.
Allah be pleased with him, and he was such a good
Mm.
role model. And I think these two men, especially my grandfather and my
Yeah.
father, they were the two that had the biggest influence
Bro, see when you mean
on me.
good role models. Can you give me an example of that? Like, what does that even mean? Is it like what does that consist of?
I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many things. I mean, in the sense that they were so kind,
Okay.
they were so loving, they were so attentive with everybody. And I always go back to this one
Yeah.
story in my head. I mean, I don't know if you know Birmingham
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. I do. Not.
but
Yeah.
we,
Not. Yeah.
we used to live on, in Sparkbrook, Ladybrook Road kind of
Okay.
way. And we had a family member. Well, it wasn't even a family member. It was like an extended, a far relative or
Mm.
a very distant relative. And I remember as a child, my grandfather taking me to a supermarket, to one of these local Asian
Yeah.
supermarkets, and purchasing some juice and some grapes. And then it was a summer's day, and I remember it was quite hot. I was very young; he was holding my hand the
Mm.
entire time, so I must have been 5, 6 years old. And I remember him telling me that somebody was ill and somebody had a chest infection or something of that
Mm.
sort. They weren't, end of life because that person only passed away not too a few years
Yeah.
ago. And saying that they were ill and we need to go and see them because when somebody's ill, you need to go and visit
Yeah.
them. So he went and it was a humble bag of grapes. They never used to have the grapes in boxes. Then it used to be little
Yeah. Yeah.
bags,
I remember, bro.
and it was a little bag of grapes and it was like a bottle of Lucasade, and we carried it and we walked. I mean, now it's probably a 3 mile, 4 mile journey.
Yeah.
And I remember walking all that way with my granddad, and those are the kind of things that stuck in my head. And that's the way he was with
Yeah.
everybody. Like, as soon as he was there, and they were there for everybody. My father and my grandfather, and the story of my father, I remember. I mean, my father had multiple stories. I
Yeah.
mean, people still now, when he passed away 15 years ago, I'm still in contact with my father's
Oh,
friends,
mashallah.
who still keep in touch with me because of everything my father did for them
Mm.
when he was alive. Because of that, they still keep in touch with us today. People still stop us in the streets,
Mm.
even now, 15 years later, and say, your father was a great man.
Yeah.
He did this, and so on and so forth. And I remember my father once, I was asleep in bed, and it must have been 12:30 at night. And my father knocking on my door and saying, look, get out of bed. We need to go
Yeah.
somewhere. I can't look at the time, went, Dad, where are we going at 12:30 at night? Like, we're going back his
Sounds exciting,
drive-through,
bro.
for a milkshake.
Sounds so exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, no, I'm like, yo, Pops, what are we doing? So I've come downstairs, and there's like this guy sat there who's like they're from a similar village, same village as
Yeah.
us in Pakistan or something. They weren't directly related to us. And so basically, the gist I got of the conversation was that he'd had a tiff with his
Right.
wife. His wife had kicked him out.
Okay.
He had nowhere to
Yeah.
go. So he knew, obviously, he knew our family. So he knew the one person that's going to help me is going to be this guy.
Right. Right.
So he rocked up to our
Yeah.
house, and he had family in Bradford. And he said, I've got no money and I've got no way of getting there. So if you can, give me some money for a coach ticket and I can drop me off at the coach
Yeah.
station. And the next coach is at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll get on the next coach 4 or 5 in the morning. It was, and I'll sleep in the coach station tonight. And my dad was like, "No, we're not having it. Get in the
Yeah.
car. We're going to drive you there."
Wow.
Um,
That is kind.
and
That is
yeah, and he
honorable.
was like, and he goes to me, get in the car. He fueled up the car, and he made me drive, and we drove the guy randomly at 12:30 at night all the way to Bradford just to drop
Bro,
him off
that's
at
rare. That is so
the
rare.
house of rented.
You don't.
Um,
It's not common to find these sort of
there's many
acts of
stories. There's
kindness.
many
Wow.
stories. Many stories.
Subhanallah.
I remember as a child growing up. I mean, in those days, alhamdulillah, my father, he was an entrepreneur. He had, a few bits. And I remember he had this, I think it was an E-Reg 518
Yeah.
BMW, which was quite, at that time, it was like, that was the car to have. If you're going to have, you had a 518 BMW, is a big deal. Um, and one of his friends sat there, one of our relatives sat there, and he went, "I love your car. I wish you'd give it to
Yeah.
me." And he literally took the keys out of his pocket and put them on the table and said, "Take it."
Wow.
And
Wow.
I thought, that's joking. And he
He
went, "Take
meant
it."
it, isn't it? Oh my God.
He
Wow.
meant it, and he gave the guy the car. And he goes,
Subhanallah.
"But what about my car?" He goes, "Leave your car with me. I only use it for, local, and
Yeah.
I'm like abroad a lot of the time. Keep it, and whenever you've got your money, whenever you get any money or whatever, if you want to, give it to me. If you don't, then
Bro,
don't worry about it."
can I ask you something about it? Because that sounds profound. I want to ask you, where does your dad draw the line of boundaries? So I'll give you an example. There's kindness, and then
Yeah,
did your dad get taken advantage of, or did he know when to draw the
many,
boundaries?
many times,
Okay.
many
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
many times, and I think that was we didn't realize that until later on in life when we started struggling
Right,
financially.
I got you, man.
Later on in life, once we started struggling
Yeah.
financially as a family, then that's when we started to get annoyed with dad. Like, "Dad, why do you keep giving
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
away?" I mean, he gave a business away.
Wow.
He set up a takeaway business, and that he'd
Yeah.
established, and then his health became quite bad, and then he just gave it
Yeah,
away
yeah,
to a friend of
yeah.
his, and his friend was like, "Oh, when it makes money, I'll pay you," and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. Didn't happen.
Bro,
Didn't happen.
what was his
And
mindset? Because that sounds like a man who lives inside his head abundantly. It's like, don't worry about it. It's cool.
yeah,
Just take it.
he had the head of a king and the balance of a pauper.
Okay.
But for him, he always said, "Look, money doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
Respect is
Yeah.
everything. And if you give today, Allah will give you
Wow.
tomorrow.
Wow.
You give today, Allah will give
Yeah.
tomorrow. These things you're not going to take to the
No,
grave
you're
with
not.
you."
Yeah.
And I mean, the way he passed away, rahimahullah, when he passed away, he got diagnosed with stage 4 lung
Yeah.
cancer. Um, I mean, I was a
Yeah.
daddy's boy, so him being diagnosed was like the earth beneath my feet, like, just disappeared. Like, it was just the most traumatic thing I've ever been through in my
Yeah.
life was the loss of my father. So when he was diagnosed, um, for that, I mean, they gave him they said 3 to 5 weeks to live.
How did you deal with that? What was going
I
through
mean,
your mind at that stage,
I
bro?
mean, the amount of people. I mean, to be honest, the whole time we couldn't even grieve. We couldn't really. Um, we struggled to spend time with him because from 8, 9 o'clock in the morning until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, there were people there from everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like it was like a president. Like, there were times where we as a family had to stand outside because there was no room for us to sit
Yeah.
inside. So
Yeah.
we'd let the guests sit inside and we'd stand outside.
Bro, something stands out about what you've just said there, because
Like,
that tells me that this man, your father, had a massive impact on
yeah.
society for that kind of people to come in where you
Yeah,
have not.
our entire extent, not just
Yeah.
us, not just our home and our family, but our entire community and extended family. Everybody had a story to tell about when they came to my dad for something and he never let them down. And I think that's something that had a massive impact on me
Legacy. It's about
growing up.
legacy in there.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm only the man I am
Yeah.
today because of my father and his father. Because of the men they were, I'm only the man I am today because they were the way they were. And they were those role models. They set those examples for me to follow today. And I think this is why parenthood, especially from the
Yeah.
father, I mean, the mother does the nurturing, the mother does the feeding, the
Yeah.
clothing, the comforting, the mother does that. But when it comes to life, and how to deal with life, how to deal with people, how to deal with situations, that has to come from the father. And though that dynamic is something that we've lost, mothers are still nurturing
Yeah, yeah.
kids. In fact, mothers, I think now I feel like mothers are over nurturing kids.
In what
Where
sense, bro? Like, give me an example of that.
I mean, in the sense that I think now mothers are going overly maternal with the
Okay.
kids. So, like, for example, when we were kids, at the age of 10, 11, you were able to cook your own food, you were able to make your own
Yeah,
bed,
yeah,
do your own clothes. But now, I mean, there's kids that are in their 20s, mid 20s, can't make a cup of tea
yeah,
because mom would be like, no, 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 you leave it. My little
yeah, yeah,
prince,
yeah,
I'll do
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
So the boys are getting mothered far later into
yeah.
life now than we were when we were kids. Your mom did it for you until you were able to stand and hold a cup yourself. As soon as you were able to do that, your hands ain't broken. Do it yourself. You always, you used to get
Bro,
that.
can I ask you something about it? Why do you think mothers nowadays do that? What do you think is the psychology behind that?
I have no. I mean, to be honest, I've got my own theories.
Okay.
I think one of the theories is the fathers don't give the attention to the mothers anymore. So the
Ah,
only man in the woman in her life is her son.
okay. Okay.
And she knows, okay, I don't have a good relationship with my husband, so I need to keep my sons as sweet as possible because they're going to be my backbone moving forward.
Okay. I understand.
They're going to be the ones that are going to keep me
Yeah, yeah,
in the long term. They're the ones that are going to, look after me in my old age. They're the ones that are going to defend me if I ever have a falling out with their father.
yeah, yeah,
So I think, I think they don't really understand the concept of tough love
yeah,
anymore.
yeah, yeah, got you.
Whereas our elders did, like in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when a child was born, after his initial few months or a couple of years, he was given away to the tribes in the mountains to live there in the harsh environment, so they can become harsh. They could learn, trade. They could learn how
Yeah,
to look
yeah,
after livestock. They can learn how to farm. They can learn how to hunt. And they can learn those skills. And this wasn't this. I mean, by no means must have that been an easy thing for the mothers to do, but it was something they do, knowing that later on in life, these are skills he has to have for him to survive. And it's something I can't teach him here in the cities, in the built-up areas. He's going to have to go out there and learn those skills. So mothers made those sacrifices then, but I think
yeah,
nowadays they don't, and they just feel like, oh, I'm going to look after him for as long as I can. And then once I stop looking after him, his wife will take over. But women aren't looking to adopt a
yeah, yeah.
husband.
Yes.
Because a woman's been in the same situation. She was raised by a
Yeah,
father who gave her the princess treatment for 25, 30 years. She's not looking to go from a princess to being a, part-time
yeah,
maid
yeah,
and a mother to a husband. She wants to carry on becoming that princess. In fact, she wants to graduate to a queen. Now, if she's trying to be a queen, at the same time the man's been princess his whole
yeah,
life and
yeah,
he's looking to be looked after, you've got two people that are just looking for the other to look after
yeah,
them.
yeah. I get that, bro.
So the man's looking for the woman to look after him. The woman's looking for the man to look after
Yeah,
her. All of a sudden, there's two people that are sat there unfulfilled because they've only ever learned to take. Nobody's ever
yeah,
learned
yeah.
to give.
So the man's not actually stepped up.
Uh,
He's not.
the man
Yeah,
hadn't stepped up. And again, I don't blame. I'm not putting the entire blame on
yeah,
mothers,
yeah.
saying it's all mothers'
I
fault.
understand.
No, I'm not doing that. But I'm saying there is an element of that. I think mothers are too harsh
Yeah,
on their daughters and too free on the sons.
yeah,
Whereas the daughters, they will always lock down, oh, don't let them do this, don't let them do
yeah,
that, they can't do this, they can't go there, they can't do that. But the sons do whatever you want, whenever you want. Like there's kids, men in the 1920s who still come downstairs and are like, oh, mom, can I have some food? And you're like, you're 20
yeah,
years
yeah.
old.
Make it yourself.
Go to the fridge,
You know where the food
go to
is.
the fridge, take it
Yeah,
out, put it in the microwave, heat it, and
yeah,
eat it, and then wash your
yeah.
dishes.
That's it.
Like, it's 20 years. But now the moms will be like, oh, no, no, baby, yeah, of course I'll do
Yeah.
it for you, of course. And you're like, you're not doing them any
Start helping the
favors.
situation.
I
Yeah.
get it. They're like, oh, well, as long as I'm alive, I'll look after him. And like, tomorrow he's going to become somebody's husband.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
when and if he's waking his wife up at 1 o'clock in the morning going, oh, I'm really hungry. You'll be like,
Yeah.
what the hell have I
Yeah.
married?
Yeah.
What the hell have I married? I've just adopted a child. And I think, it's really important that we go back to, and I know we live in people are like, oh yeah, we live in a
Yeah.
different time. I don't buy that excuse.
What's your take on it,
I
bro?
don't buy that excuse.
What's your take on when people say
No,
that?
you know why? Because time is exactly the
Yes.
same. You still have 24 hours in a
Yeah.
day. The sun still rises exactly the same. The moon comes out whenever it's time
Yeah.
for it, and then the sun sets out exactly the same as it
Yeah.
used to. The trees still grow the same. The animals are still born the same way they are. The cows still. Everything is exactly the same. The only element that's changed is us
Yeah.
humans and our mentality. And if we can change it from that to this, we can change it from this back to
Got
that.
you. I hear you, bro.
Time hasn't changed. People have changed. We have changed.
Yeah.
We can't say, oh, time, oh, this is the way time is. No, we used to be kind. Why can't we be kind now?
bro.
It's not like kindness doesn't exist
Bro,
anymore.
check this. I've got a different take on that, yeah, because but it's in addition to what you're saying, because the other side of it is okay, that we're either backdated, we're old school, that you got to keep up with the modern times. But I'm thinking, look, environments change, people don't. Their behaviors are
Yeah,
behaviors. Like back in the day, I mean, I'm a victim of this because I used to call my mum and dad, they're old school, they can't keep up with the modern times. But one thing that they do know, bro,
yeah,
through the test of time is people. And people's behaviors,
yeah,
it doesn't matter what kind of era that you're in, it remains the same. It's the same type of mentality,
yeah,
different environment. That's all that's changed is the environment. It's like what you said.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
unfortunately, we're at a stage now, there's a lot of degeneracy, bro. They're like we're just deteriorating at a rapid pace, bro, in terms of our
yeah.
behaviors and
And
that.
I,
Go on.
and I think that's because we've let the wealth and the comfort go from our hands to our hearts. There was a time in those days, everything above one meal a day, a roof over your
Yeah.
head, and clothes on your back, anything more than that was considered a
Yeah,
bonus and a
yeah, yeah.
blessing. Now, a four-bedroom
Yeah.
detached, two cars, three meals a
Yeah.
day, two holidays a year have become the
That's
baseline,
crazy. That is so crazy, man.
right?
Yeah.
We've turned that into the baseline, and then anything above that now is a bonus. Now a helicopter is a bonus, or going from a Mercedes to a Lamborghini is a bonus.
Bro,
You
do you
know,
know what's so sad about what that comment that you just made? The standards have been up so much, but our character of
yeah,
standards have just dropped so much.
dropped. I mean, and that's what's going to happen when you see two things. It's like the law of physics.
Yeah.
Two things can occupy the same
No,
space
they
at the same
can't. Yeah.
time. You can't have dunya and deen in your heart at the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
time. You have to have
Either
either
or, yeah, yeah.
or a measurement of either. It's like if there's 100% of something, if you've got 60% of one thing in there, you can only have 40% of
Yeah.
the other. You can't have 60% of two
You
things
can't have that
in that
balance.
one
Yeah.
space,
You can't have that. Yeah.
right? So you have to, if you're going to have 50% of dunya in there, you've got to have 50% of
Yeah.
deen in there. And if you don't put 50% of deen in there, the dunya is going to take over the whole
I
100%.
understand. Okay.
So it's up to you to put as much of the deen into your heart and as much of the spirituality into your heart and the character into your heart in order to stop the dunya from taking over it,
Bro,
taking over the space.
how would you explain that to people who are non-Muslim that are watching this? What?
See,
Yeah.
again, it's spirituality. It's spirituality and
Yeah.
materialism. So basically, I mean, we are we are not physical beings with a soul.
Yes.
We are spiritual beings with a body
Yeah.
temporarily. We were created as souls. We're given this body for a temporary measure of
Yeah.
time, and then we go back to our default state of being a soul again. And so, whether you call it a soul or a spirit, whatever you
Yeah.
call it, regardless of religious take on it, you're a spiritual being, right? This body and this material state that we're in is only a temporary state. However, a mistake we've made is that we give all the focus to this material part of our life and ignore the before and
Yeah.
after. Ignore the fact that we were created as souls and we're going to end up being souls. We were blessed with creation as a soul, and we're going to be held accountable as a soul. You're not going to be stood there in your body, you're going to be stood there as a
Yeah.
soul. This is just a vessel, and we pay too much attention and time and effort into making the vessel
The focus.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
The focus is wrong. The focus should be on the actual spirit. And I gave an example the other day of imagine life being a holiday, right? Your life is a holiday. We were sent on this holiday by the Creator. The things we have, our home, our clothing, our cars, and all that stuff, imagine that's the hotel room
Yes.
that you're staying in. Now, everybody wants a nice hotel room. Everybody wants a nice cushy bed. Everybody wants a nice TV. Everybody wants air conditioning and so on and so forth. But even if it's nice, you're not going to spend the entire 2-week holiday in the hotel
No,
room,
you're
are
not.
you?
Of course you're not. Yeah.
You're not, right? You're going to go out and you're going to enjoy the holiday, which is the reason you
Yeah.
came. If it's a bad hotel room, or it's not the one you'd like, and the bed's not the one you like, and the wallpaper's not nice, you're going to make do. You're not going to go, oh, well, I'm going to spend the 2 weeks redecorating the bed, this hotel room. You're not. You're going to be like, I'll make do. It is what it is. I'm here for the holiday. Let me go and enjoy the holiday. The problem is we're so focused on this hotel room. Most of us don't even leave it to see life. We don't even get to go on the holiday because we're so focused on this hotel room that we're in.
Bro, in addition to what you're saying, do you know what I have found speaking to countless brothers and so what is this? It's we know it, but we've not internalized it. We've not lived it. Like there's a complete different thing about knowing it and living it. Living it is all about it's a transformative process, but it's like once we live it, we believe it, we embed it.
Yeah.
And do you think that this is where we're going wrong? It's like, okay, that we know about the akhirah, that we know about the dunya things, but how do we
Yeah.
even live it? Because once we start living it, we will see changes in our life.
Yeah. That's the hard
Yeah,
bit. That's the hard bit because there's many systems in place in this day and
yeah,
age. There's a lot of systems and people behind the trying to get us attached to the
yeah,
dunya.
yeah,
I mean, social
yeah,
media, I mean, materialism, holidays, cars, all technology, all
yeah,
these things that making us more comfortable are just getting us more and more attached. In order for us to break that attachment, we have to go back to the Quran and the Sunnah. We have to go back to spending time by ourselves, even if you're not religious, even if you're not a
yeah.
Muslim. Going back to stuff like grounding, spending time by yourself,
Reflecting,
reflection,
yeah, yeah,
looking for good in people, looking for good in others, looking to make a positive difference on earth, trying to help people in any which way you can. And you can start with anything as small as a smile. Say to yourself, I'm going to smile at every single person I see today. No matter what mood I'm in, I'm going to smile at everybody I see.
little
Even
actions.
if hopefully it'll improve the light, it'll improve the morning of that person that you've smiled at. But even if it doesn't, you know what it'll do for you? It'll put you in a good mood for the rest of the day. It'll leave you, because every time you smile, even if you're upset, try this one day. Even if you're upset, right? Do a fake smile. Like right now, sat here in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
conversation, you smile.
What now? Okay.
Do a fake smile. Yeah, do a
Yeah,
fake
yeah,
smile.
yeah.
Hold it. Hold the smile. Keep smiling. Keep smiling. Eventually, what will
Yeah.
happen is you'll start feeling the feeling that comes with smiling.
I get that.
You maybe even start laughing,
Bro,
and then the more you laugh,
that's funny that you said that because
sorry,
when I did that fake
yeah,
smile, it made me laugh really. It's
internally,
like
yeah,
at first I feel like, okay, I feel a bit silly here, but then because I felt silly, it made me laugh. It made me think, okay,
yeah.
and then I get that.
But that's
Yeah,
it. And then once you start laughing, it'll release the
yeah,
endorphins in
yeah.
your
And it did,
system,
yeah, it did.
and all of a sudden you'll feel
Yeah,
better. You'll feel better. So it's taking action sometimes. Then later wields the results. You can't say I'm going to be nice when I feel happy. The reason
oh
you're not
my
feeling happy is
gosh,
because you're not being nice.
bro, do you know what? Something,
We put the cart before the horse.
bro, something that went off literally just now as you were speaking. It was like a light bulb, and the first thing
Mm.
that occurred to me is, oh my gosh, this is what's missing. That smile that you've just said, it's the social connection. I will smile naturally if I have a communication with someone because we're going to interact, and I think that face-to-face interaction is missing in today's society because it's all going towards
It's all online.
technological advancement and that, bro. So it's like that's so true in what you said, because that smile you will do as long as that you're having those interactions with people. It could be anyone on road, street, mosque, any.
See, a smile is so much more than
Yeah,
that. See, a smile is something that humans have as a white flag, right? It's as a white
yeah,
flag. Now, imagine everybody in life going around with a stern
yeah,
face,
yeah, yeah,
right? Because as humans, our absolute base as humans, one of our biggest thing is
yeah,
self-defense, is self-preservation. Subconsciously, we're constantly reading the room, we're constantly reading the street,
yeah,
we're constantly reading every single environment because your brain's main and most basic function is self-preservation, is to keep you alive and keep you safe. Yeah? Absolute basic
yeah,
instinct. When you're walking down the street and somebody has a stern look on their face, your brain's confused. Is this person a risk to
yeah, yeah,
me? Is this person a potential harm? Is this person an opposition to
yeah, yeah,
me? So your brain's thinking all these things, so you're on a defense mode, right? So you're holding back. When somebody smiles, what that does is it gives you a white flag to say, you're safe with me.
okay,
So you let your guard down. When you see a smile, you automatically let your guard down. If you're on a train and somebody sits, you end up on one of those table seats, and the guy opposite you is just sat there with a stone
yeah,
face the whole time, you'll probably be like, I'll leave this guy to
yeah,
it.
yeah.
If as soon as he sits down, he looks at you and gives you a smile,
Different.
chances are within the next couple of minutes, you're going to initiate a conversation and say,
Yeah.
oh, so are you going today?
Wait,
Because you feel safe.
can I push that a bit further? Do you think it's gotten to the point where This action has filtered into our own relationships with our spouses, with our sons, our family, bro. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. And what I was going to
yeah,
say is that we forget, we try so hard to be a mom, a dad, an uncle, an aunt, a
yeah,
friend, that we forget to be human.
yeah,
We forget to be human. We forget the basic things. Like, for example, your
yeah.
son, right? You're going to have moments, you've had moments where you're like, we
Of
disagree.
course,
He's upset, you're
of course.
upset, right? Imagine at that point, we're not going to focus on him, we're going to focus on you as a
Yeah,
dad. Imagine at that point, you just stopped and started smiling.
yeah, yeah.
Where would that conversation have gone?
Somewhere nice, somewhere nice. Like, yeah,
Right?
lots of endorphins.
Either he would have looked at you and gone, "What the
Yeah,
hell?" and he would have started laughing about
yeah,
it, or all of a sudden, what was going to happen is you would have absolutely, totally neutralized him,
yeah,
because you can't. How are you going to be angry with somebody who's smiling
yeah,
at you?
yeah. Very difficult. Yeah,
How can you hate somebody who's smiling at you? A genuine smile. You can't. So you've just totally neutralized him. Then once he's neutralized and you've both come back down to baseline, at that point, then you can have the
yeah,
conversation. I'm not saying don't have those conversations. Have those conversations at baseline. There's no point having, if you're going to have any negotiations, have them before the battle starts. Don't start the battle and then try to have a negotiation mid-battle, because it's not going to happen, because you're trying to hit them and they're trying to hit
yeah,
you,
yeah,
right? It's the wrong time to have a negotiation, because no one's going to listen. You're going to end up getting hurt if you're trying to have a negotiation mid-battle. The only time to have a negotiation or a truce is before the battle or after the battle. Thing is, you can't risk to do it after the battle, because then you've got all the collateral damage that's happened in the battle. So the best time to do it is before the battle.
yeah, yeah. Because it will just neutralize it
Right?
as well. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's
I get
finished.
that, bro.
Straight away, straight away. And firstly, it's good for you as well, because straight away your nature will calm down. Even if you're
Yeah,
angry, you'll straight away calm down, and then maybe you'll start thinking from a different point of view and thinking, maybe I was being a bit
yeah.
extreme, maybe I was being a bit
Of
harsh,
course.
and you can revisit it. And the same goes for your son. Same goes for anything with your spouse, sibling, whatever it is. Neutralize it and use your base instincts. We don't need to be psychologists.
Yeah,
We don't need to be, human behavior therapists or experts. We don't, like, and sometimes it says just be kind, and as simple as that sounds, it's the key to life. Just be kind.
bro. Do you know what's so fascinating about what you've just said about being kind? I think that we've forgotten how to be kind. Now that we've been
Yeah,
programmed, it's like a program that we've been taught now how to be selfish, more and more, and less
you know
considerate.
why we're
Yeah, go on, bro.
selfish, Mahbub? Because we're in competition.
Okay.
You're never going to be nice to somebody who you're trying to exceed,
Yeah,
right? Because you're in battle mode all the time. You're in battle mode all the time, because you're thinking, okay, she's got to this stage or he's got to this stage in life. I need to do better than that. So, subconsciously, you're trying to keep them as low as possible, or as backwards as possible, so that you can surpass them. And it's because we're in competition mode all the time with everybody.
bro.
You know,
Do you think that also fizzles into our relationship between our spouses? Like it's
of
so. I'll
course,
give you an
of
example. It will
course,
look like something like, oh, okay, today that I've done X, Y, Z around the home, the errands. What have you done? For example, they could play out like that.
yeah.
They could play out
It's tit for tat.
similar with the kids as well.
Yeah, tit for
This is
tat.
deep.
I
This
mean,
is
even
yeah.
the smallest things, when you're driving down the road,
Okay.
right? You're driving down the road, you're in traffic, a car's pulling out of a side
Yeah.
road, people won't give way. Even though to flash the guy out and let him to come out, it's not going to make a difference to your journey at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But we're in that competition mode that I'm in front of you. Even if there's one car in front of
Yeah.
you, I'm in
Yeah.
front of you. We won't let anybody else get in front of us, because then we feel like we've lost. It's our egos. It's our egos that won't let anybody else get in front, because then we'll feel like lesser of a man or lesser of a woman. And ego is what made Iblis from the status he was at
Yeah.
to being the most cursed creation, was his ego. And that's something we really do need to let go. And if you're going to kill anything about yourself, kill your ego. Kill it.
Do you think that
Kill
the
it.
ego needs to be killed or channeled?
I mean, if you can tame your
Yeah.
ego, that's a lot
Yeah.
harder to do. Because if you've got, no benefit can come from
Yeah.
ego. No benefit can come from ego. An example of that is, say, for example, another word for ego would be pride,
Yeah.
right? Now, nobody can enter Jannah if their heart were Mount Uhud, and they had 1 grain of rice worth of pride in that heart. They couldn't enter Jannah. So any pride, ego, is bad, however small it is. So no goodness comes from ego or pride, right? The more humble you are, the better.
Okay.
You can never be too humble,
Yeah.
because the more humble you are, and I know, and I've said this myself in the past, that when you're too kind, people take
Yeah.
advantage, and people do this and people do that. And you're like, yeah, but do you not know that the one who sees all is also the most just? He's the one that will judge those people just the same as he's going to judge you.
Bro, what's your
So nobody gets away with it.
what's your take on the difference between being nice and being kind? What is the difference between the two?
I think kindness is something that we is a characteristic that we can pick and choose.
Okay.
I think to be humble
Yeah.
takes a lot more work. You can be temporarily
Yeah.
kind, but you can't be temporarily humble.
Yeah.
You can be kind to somebody for an hour today and then be horrible to them for the rest of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Got you.
But you can't be humble for an hour and then be non-humble for the rest. You
I
can't,
get that, bro.
and be proud of the rest. Once you're humble, you're humble.
Yeah.
It's not something that's a deep part of your character. Whereas kindness is just it's a trait. It's a habit. It's something that you have to choose to do consciously. Once you become humble, then you're humble. But kindness is every single act you do. In order to make it kind, you have to make a conscious effort to make that thing kind. And like I said, like you said before, like husbands and wives are constantly in competition, because it's always tit for tat. Like, I'm not going to do this because I've already done A, B, and C, so I'm not going to do D because you live in the same house. You need to do D, E, and F. Whereas if that husband looked at it and thought, you know what, she's still at work, I've already done A, B, and C. What I'll do is I'll do D, E, and F as well, because I'm here, she's at work. And if she comes home and thinks, oh, he's already done it all up to F, you know what? I'll do the others, or I'll do something for him tomorrow. And you both start competing for goodness.
Yeah.
You both start competing in kindness. Then the world starts heading in the right
That
direction.
is profound, bro, because not everyone's coming in with that.
Then the world starts heading in the right
Yeah,
direction.
because not everyone's coming in with that mentality where I want to be together and build something together rather than see who puts in the most, and then it's you at war with each
Yeah.
other. That's a different mindset, bro.
But compete in kindness. Let me give you an example. You may already know this story. You're more knowledgeable than I am. There's a story of Abu Bakr when he used to, after Fajr prayer, used to disappear. You heard the story, right?
Continue.
And
I
he used
don't
to,
think I have, bro.
so Hazrat Abu Bakr used to disappear after
Yeah.
Fajr Salah, and he used to walk in the opposite direction to his
Okay.
home. And obviously the Sahaba, especially the Hazrat Umar and Hazrat Abu Bakr, they used to compete all
Oh
the
yeah,
time
yeah.
for
These
deeds.
yeah.
So Hazrat Umar thought, where's he going? I know he's doing something. Where's he going? That he must be doing something extra, some extra ibadah. He's doing something. I'm going to go and look. I'm going to go watch and see what he does, so I can do it as well. So he follows him. He follows him, and he follows him to this home of this elderly blind woman.
Right.
And Hazrat Abu Bakr was going there, and he was cooking, cleaning for her, not speaking to her. He wouldn't say anything. He'd just quietly clean everything for her, cook for her, look after her, feed her, and then leave. Anyway, he thought, wow, this is why Abu Bakr is Abu Bakr. Anyway, he carried on. He carried on for a few years until he was no more. Then when Hazrat Umar came in, he thought, you know what, I'm going to take over that deed that Hazrat Abu Bakr used to do.
Yeah.
So the next morning, he went and he did exactly the same thing. So he'd been watching Abu Bakr do it. He thought he did exactly the same to the T, exactly the way Abu Bakr did it, so that the woman wouldn't notice. I wouldn't be able to tell. So he did everything, and then when he went to feed this woman, he gave her a date, and she put the date in her mouth, and she said to him, "Where's the man that used to come before you?"
Hey.
He was shocked. He's
How
like,
do you know?
he never spoke to
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
I didn't speak to her. How did she know? And I did everything exactly the way he used to do it. How did you know? And he asked her, he said, how do you know that it was me, not him? And he said, because when he used to feed me the date, he used to take the seed out of it before
That
he gave it
little
to me.
intricate, wow, that little detail.
No, it's just the excellence in kindness. So even though they were both being kind, because his kindness was so extreme where he thought of every tiny detail to even take the seed out of the date,
Bro,
even to take the seed out of the date. And this is what I mean, is that when you love with excellence, when you love your companion, when you love your father, when you love your child, love them with excellence. Look at every small detail. If you can make their bed, make it. If you can iron it for them, iron it for them. If you can put a chocolate on their pillow every single night, do that. If you can, make them feel like they're the only person in the world that day. It doesn't matter if you get it back or not. If you do it because you love with excellence, hopefully one day the person you're loving with excellence will return that love back to you with excellence. And even if they don't, Think of the reward you're getting. Whether that be your child, your sibling, your parent, your
Yeah.
wife, especially your wife and your child, because these are the two people you're wholly over,
Bro,
you're accountable
where
for.
do we draw? Okay, so where do we draw the line in terms of setting boundaries? Because we are also human. Like otherwise, sometimes they could put us our own thing at risk, our own self at risk.
Yeah.
If there's no boundaries.
No, see,
Yeah.
Allah has already set the boundaries, so you don't need to.
Okay.
Allah has already set the boundaries. He's already told the wife how to treat her husband. He's already told the husband how to treat the
Yeah.
wife. Those are the boundaries there. Anything above and beyond that is too much. As long as it's within those
Yeah.
boundaries, you do as much as you can within those boundaries.
Right. So
Do as much as you can within those
right.
boundaries.
So my next question will be on top of that is, bro, not everyone is gonna come in with that kind of understanding and education. Like, so say for example that I'm in a marriage, I'm quite clued up about certain things. She may not be, and trying to get her to understand that, or she trying to get certain things to understand.
That's gonna take time, I think. And this is the thing, when you get into something, you have to the best way of educating somebody is by example.
Yes, of course.
Right? And they won't get it straight away. Not everybody's going to get it straight away. The Prophet peace be upon him was hated for many years before he ended up with 1.6 billion of us on the planet. Where now we don't go a day without blessing his name. We don't go one prayer without blessing his name. But there was a time when he came and he was struggling to find people to even talk to him, but he led with character.
This is what is missing.
Like,
This is
we follow the sunnah. We follow the sunnah. Which one of us follow the writings of the Prophet peace be upon him? None of us, because he never wrote anything. He never wrote anything. His entire life, our entire faith, is based upon following actions. We can't do nothing. We don't know how to pray if we didn't follow his actions.
That's right. Yeah.
We don't know how to fast unless we followed his actions. We don't know how to treat our neighbors unless we followed his actions. Everything we do, everything we should do, should be by actions and by leading by example.
Yes.
Lead by example. 100%. Not out of... And the problem is, we expect something back from the people we do it for. And when we don't get it back once or twice, third time we think, sack it, I'm not doing it anymore.
Bro,
I'm not doing it anymore.
Can I ask you a question around that? It all ties in, and it's kind of like goes off the tangent a bit. Where do you think we're struggling in terms of having a relationship with, number one, our creator, number two, our spouses, number three, our children, and then our society, our people? Where do you think that we're going wrong in today's society, bro?
I think we're going wrong is because we've forgotten the fundamental.
Right.
We've forgotten the base, right? We're trying to bake a cake without flour, right? So it doesn't matter how nice your decoration is, right? If you've not got flour in it, it's not going to work. Allah is the flour and the cake, right? And we need to make Allah the foundation of everything. Everything. If you're constantly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you have Allah in the forefront of your mind, and the pleasing of Allah is your first and only priority. Your only priority.
Yeah.
Even when you love your wife, do it because you're trying to please Allah, not your wife. When you're good to your child, don't do it to please your child. Do it because you want the pleasure of your creator. When you smile at the guy on the train, don't smile at him because you want him to think you're a nice guy. Smile at him because you're trying to please your creator. Every single thing you do, don't do it for the subject. Do it for the creator. As long as you keep that in your mind, you can't lose. You can't lose. Even if that person slaps you in the face for smiling at them, you've got a reward for it. You get more reward for it. The worse it is for you, the more reward you're going to get. So for you, it's always going to be a win-win. The problem is that we've forgotten our whole base and foundation of life, which is we were only here for one thing, and that was to please the creator. And you can do that in more ways than just sitting on a prayer mat, growing a big beard and walking around giving Islamic lectures. I mean, that's not what Islam's about. The Prophet, peace upon him, was sent to mankind to rectify our characters. Now, sitting there on, social media and cussing out other groups and arguing with, this and that and this school of thought and that school of thought, and, should you pull your trousers up when you pray, and do you wear hijab, don't you wear hijab? I mean, everybody is on their own individual thing. Just focus on yourself and focus on your relationship. Focus on what are you doing. None of that stuff's going to matter. I mean, yes, you try to help people along the way. You try to advise people. If you're going to advise people, do it nicely or don't do it at all.
There's a way about going about it, I guess.
There's a way about it. If I'm going to come to you and I'm going to, with an angry, stern face after Salah, go, Eid Mubarak, like with a really angry face, you're going to be like, bro, just don't say it. If you don't want to, just don't do it. If you're going to say it, say it nicely or don't say it at all. So if you're going to say something to somebody, you're going to advise somebody, Do it nicely, do it kindly, or don't waste your time and don't waste theirs. But if you're going to do it nicely because you're doing it, again, to please your Lord. You're doing it to please your Creator. You're doing it to set an example. And the way you live your life is exactly what your son's going to see. That's exactly what your daughter's going to see. So when your daughter gets to that age and she gets onto the train and she sees, somebody on the train, she'll think, oh, Dad used to smile at everybody. And I'll smile too.
Bro,
And you'll be the same.
what do we do? Okay, so say for example, what do we do when we have not been taught these things? When we're seeing our mums and dads argue, fuss and fight, scream and shout,
Yeah.
and we're coming from a place of trauma. We're coming from our own negative experiences, and all of a sudden we're getting married now. We're coming unprepared, unequipped, with baggage, and all of a sudden that we're in a relationship, and at first they goes well, and then through time, because there's a lot of unresolved issues, it goes all up in the air, and all of a sudden that you're just separated, or the kids are all over the place, or just it's manic. Like, where do we go from that situation, bro? Because we're coming into
And I think it's frame of mind.
Okay.
You need to change your own personal frame of mind. In order to do that, you need to go back to basics. Go back to basics. Go back to learn yourself. Look for your own flaws. Before you try to fix your child, fix yourself. Go and do your counseling, get your therapy, get over your traumas. Learn to be at peace with yourself. Once you're at peace with yourself, then you can emanate peace. You can radiate peace. But if you're in conflict yourself internally, you can't radiate peace because you're not at peace. So as a father, and I mean, obviously you've already got kids, and mashallah, they're not about it. They're grown men now. I mean, for men, I say, when you get married, before you take on, and this is what I want to talk about more than anything today, was
Let's
responsibility.
delve into that, bro. Yeah,
Responsibility. Acknowledging responsibility, especially for the
that's a
man.
big one.
Carrying the child for 9 months and then giving birth and the pains of labor. If a mother just did that and nothing else for their child's entire life, she has done enough.
Wow.
Because that is such a hardship. That first, from conception right through to raising that child to a year old, those first 2 years are so difficult that if a woman only did those 2 years and then sat back and said, I'm not doing anything anymore, she has done enough.
Right.
The responsibility falls upon the father,
Yeah, but like, say,
right?
how would that play out? Because say, for example, he has to go out and work, but the mother is left
Yeah.
with the child at home. She would have to.
To nurture, of course, the nurturing and tarbiyah of that child, the education of the child is up to the mother. For example, the things of deen, for example, teaching of the Quran, making sure they keep on top of their homework. The mom's going to do that because the dad's at work. But the teaching them of how to be a man and how to be a constructive member of society, that responsibility falls solely onto the head of the father. And it's a massive responsibility because you are creating the society of today. Now, say, for example, we get 100 guys and we all move onto an island, right? And, you're joined by 100 women. All 100 men decide to have children at the same time. If all of those men teach their child goodness, they teach them kindness, those children, as they're raised, they're going to live on the island peacefully. But if those fathers raise their children to cheat and lie and steal, how many generations do you think are going to survive on that island?
Yeah,
Not many.
Yeah.
Not many. But when you teach that child well, and you teach them to love others, be kind, to care for others, to be generous, to love selflessly, and if every single person on the island is thinking exactly the same, it's the abundance of that planet is just going to grow. I mean, like now, many people are like, oh, I'm starving, I haven't got this, I haven't got that. There were times where in the Indian subcontinent, Bangladesh, Pakistan, my dad was part of an organization they set up in Bangladesh himself, and he went to Bangladesh a couple of times in his life for these projects. And, people used to live as communities. So I've made some food here, you've made some food next door. Every night I would take a portion of mine and give it to you. You would take a portion of yours and either give it back to me or give it to the next neighbor. So everybody had a bit of everything.
That's gone. Wow.
So for example, if I could only afford something really basic and you had roast, chicken in your house, if I had a guest, you would automatically, and you've given me the roast chicken, you would save my dignity in front of my guest because It wouldn't look like I was poor.
Yeah, yeah,
And you could knock on each other's door, and they lived as a community because your respect and your honor would be my
yeah,
honor.
yeah,
If your daughter's been doing something, I would consider that
yeah,
disrespect to
yeah,
me.
yeah. Got you.
So I mean, like, and a typical example of that is when we were kids, and if you ever had a sneaky
Yeah,
cigarette, you weren't just hiding from your
yeah,
dad. You were hiding from all your uncles. You were hiding from your neighbors. You didn't want anybody in the street or anybody that even knew your dad
yeah.
to see you because you thought, oh, like I'm scared. Oh, that uncle knows my dad. I can't smoke in front of him. Or I can't do this in front of him. You'd hide from them because if they saw you, they would feel like that's, even though you
Shameful.
weren't
Yeah,
related to
yeah.
them, they would feel like that. You feel that shame.
Bro, so
We don't have that anymore.
yeah, I was about to say that because that policing, the community policing, um,
Yeah.
is missing. And the thing is this: the joke thing is sometimes it's the uncles and the family have also become like that. It's like, well, they're doing it, then my uncle's doing it,
Yeah.
my auntie's doing it. Well, we
Yeah.
might as well do it. So once that happens, where there's no shame anymore,
Yeah.
we can't police each other. We can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But this is the thing, I'm going to say, it takes a village to
yeah,
raise a
yeah,
child.
yeah. I got you.
It takes a village to raise a child, and you have to be like it's quoted by
Yeah,
Gandhi, is be the change you want to
yeah,
see.
yeah,
Like if you think there needs to be a change in
yeah.
society, then become that change.
By
Become that change
Can
yourself.
I ask you something about that as well? Yeah. So this is regarding that change. So you've created the Man Foundry. Tell me what
Yeah.
that's about, bro. What does that represent?
I mean, so the Man
Yeah.
Foundry basically, I got divorced a year
Okay.
ago, and after the death of my father, that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to go
Okay.
through. Just because of the
Yeah.
circumstances of it all. It came as a surprise to me. I had no idea it was going to
Yeah.
happen. It was just a sudden, a sudden thing for me. It was all of a sudden, and then the things that happened after. I mean, it was a very amicable
Yeah.
situation. It wasn't like a bitter,
Yeah.
thing or anything like that. But just the circumstances, the first, 6 months of those were really, really difficult for me, and I really did hit rock bottom in many, many ways. In many ways,
Bro, sorry.
to a point
Did
where
you hit rock bottom because of the divorce or because of dad passing away? Which one was it?
no, because of
Oh,
divorce.
okay.
I mean, when my dad passed
Yeah.
away, I struggled, and it took me a good 6, 7 years after my dad passed away before I was able to like cope
Yeah.
and live with it. It took me 6, 7 years at least,
And bro, sorry.
counselling and all
Did your
sorts.
dad pass away before you got married, or was it during or after?
My father passed away 3 months after my
Oh,
marriage,
okay. Okay.
and that was one of the reasons I got married in such a hurry was because my father was in palliative care at the time. But alhamdulillah, like she was a good woman. It was a good marriage. It was just two people. It just wasn't the right time. Qadar it wasn't the right time for
How long have you
us.
been married for, or was married for, bro?
I was married for 14
Wow,
years.
14 years is
Yeah,
not
14 years.
a
Yeah.
short time, bro. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't, and it was. I can't knock the woman
Yeah.
at all. There were a lot of responsibilities that I should have done that I didn't
Okay.
do. There were a lot of responsibilities I should have fulfilled, which I didn't. Maybe I wasn't the man I should have been,
Okay.
and I paid the ultimate price.
Did you end it, or did
And that was, I think,
how did the divorce come to an end? Was it through you or?
she asked for the
Oh, she asked for it.
divorce.
Okay.
No, she asked for it.
Yeah.
I gave it, but it was something she asked
Okay.
for and she pursued.
Okay.
But I think the hardest thing was accepting the fact that I felt like it was my fault.
Why, bro?
Like I could have been better. I could have been better.
Yeah.
I was very harsh with myself
Okay.
and felt that I could have been a better husband. Maybe I could have provided more. Maybe I could have worked
Yeah.
more. Maybe I could have. I mean, in character, in kindness, all of those things, it was perfect. We never had an argument, never had a
Yeah.
fight. 14 years,
Wow.
absolutely. But maybe I felt like maybe I wasn't observant enough. Maybe I didn't see the cracks.
Okay.
Like, I was just in my head. I had the best marriage
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Got you.
And I was happy as
Yeah.
Larry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
coming home, skipping in the rain every day. Oh, this is great.
Bro, can,
And I
can,
didn't see the
can I
cracks.
ask you something about that? See when you didn't see the cracks. Like, can you pick up the cues when like she didn't feel comfortable, or when she just felt like there were times when she just felt like down, or like what
Yeah, but I mean, there were a lot of other issues. There were some medical issues that she had and things like that. And I always put it down to
okay.
that stuff. And thought, oh, it's because of that, but it's
Yeah.
okay. And I'd always kind of be very lenient
Yeah.
and be very chilled out and be like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. It's fine. Oh, it's okay if she's been grumpy. I'll still
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
nice. It's okay if she's been a bit distant. I'll still be
Yeah.
kind. Um, I mean, Allahu Alim, Allahu Alim, the real
Yeah.
reason behind everything and the truth behind everything. Only Allah
Yeah.
knows, and we're only going to find out in the day of judgment. But from what I can only hold myself to
Yeah.
account, and I feel that I could have, I mean, I reflected on it from my own
Yeah.
point of view and thought, okay, what could I have done better?
Okay.
And when I put that question to myself, there were a couple of things that I came up with that I could have done better. So I only think about those things. I don't think about her shortcomings or her
Yeah.
flaws, and that's for her to,
To do that. Yeah.
think about herself and discuss herself. That's up to her. But I need to fix myself. And that's why I came to that. The first 6 months were really, really difficult. And then I decided that, I was going to acknowledge those changes and fix those. And then I realized that there's probably other people in the world right now, other men in the world going through similar
Yeah.
things. Maybe there's people that are not married, that are planning on getting
Yeah.
married, and I wouldn't want them to go through these
Yeah.
things. So we need to set up something where we can help coach these men to be good fathers and good husbands, so that they don't come across the same problems that we've encountered and make the same mistakes as
Bro,
us.
some of the things that you just said, what would you advise men to watch out for before they go into marriages, like what you just said just now?
I mean, who you're picking as a
Okay.
partner has a big take on that. Look for a partner. Look for your partner's relationship with their father.
Okay. All right.
If she had a good relationship with her
Yeah.
dad, and she respects her father, she loves her
Yeah.
father, then she's probably going to be a good partner.
Right. Right. Got you.
If they're from a family where the men rule the roost, and the father's only always put down, and oh yeah, he's a bum,
Yeah.
he's this, he's that. If the father's disrespected in that home, then don't go
Yeah.
there.
Got you.
Don't go there. If the father's disrespected in her home, don't go there. Obviously, there's cause and reason. There's exceptions to every
Yeah.
rule. I'm just speaking generally. Also, somebody who understands. I mean, because she's come from a home where her father provided
Yeah.
for her. If she appreciated her father her whole life, and she appreciated her father's efforts, whether he was a bus driver or a taxi driver or a waiter in a restaurant or wherever he was, then she's probably going to respect and acknowledge her husband's efforts. But if she doesn't respect his efforts, she won't respect her husband's.
Okay.
So things like that, I think, are big things to look out for. But at the same time, I think men need to worry more about what they do and what they bring to the
Right.
table.
Okay.
In terms of when you take a woman into your
Yeah.
home, you've gone to somebody's father or mother and taken sole responsibility for maintaining that person. Now, you then need to do that. Whatever you need to do, you need to do that. Now, if you were working part-time in your friend's business before you got married, and you go to work and you were having a laugh and you were making enough money to put fuel in your car and buy 20 Benson and get you a takeaway once a week, and you were happy with that, when you're single, that's fine. If that's how you want to live, that's your choice. That doesn't fly after marriage,
Yeah.
because now you've got responsibilities. You've taken her on. You've got to maintain at least the basics for her: the clothing, the food, the shelter. It's a responsibility. Marriage isn't a holiday, right? Marriage, you're not just dating somebody, right? Where you can go out to the movies, buy her a large popcorn and a large Pepsi, and she's gonna go home after this. No, like, she's yours for life. So you've got to accept that responsibility. You've got to take on the tough times as well as the good times. You've got to take on the bad moods as well as the good moods. You've got to take the first thing in the morning face as well as the dressed up for a wedding face. You've got to take the whole shebang and accept it. And I think men just aren't geared up anymore to accept all of those. We only want the good. We're not willing to take on the responsibilities and the hardship.
Do you?
And again, I think part of that goes back to the way our mothers raised us. When the moms are too soft, kids aren't used to that. They're not used to the hardship. They're not used to
See
responsibility.
the link.
So when the wife puts responsibility on him and says, it's your responsibility to feed me, then all of a sudden the man's like, whoa, he's not used to responsibility because his mother didn't put it on him when he was younger.
And bro, do you know the sad thing about that as well is when his mother goes old, maybe he might not even step up to the plate to take care of her. Maybe he might be.
Yeah, because she didn't teach him responsibility.
That's sad. It's a sad
She didn't
cycle.
teach him, she didn't. This is why you have to teach them responsibility at a younger age. They have to be able to fend for themselves. You have to teach them what's important. You have to be able to do the basics. As a man, it's your job. I mean, this is why putting kids into programs like Scouts and things like that, I think, is absolutely vital. So especially for your sons and the daughters, not just for boys, for your sons and daughters. They've got the basic skills, survival skills, for example. They're able to light a fire. They're able to filter water, make a shelter. You don't know what life's got, planned for us, what Allah's got planned for us. We don't know what situations we're going to end up in. We don't know what's coming for the Ummah in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We don't know. We might end up in a situation where, like, say, for example, like, you got
Yeah.
France, Calais, for example, right? And there's loads of people that have run away from war zones, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever, and they were doctors and dentists and business entrepreneurs and everything. Never had those skills. All of a sudden, they're living in the wilderness. They're living in a forest somewhere. They've got no skills. They don't know how to find food. They don't know how to clean water. They don't know how to build a
Nothing.
shelter.
Yeah.
They have to rely on other men to look after their wives.
I get that one.
Like, you don't want to be in that position as a man ever.
Bro,
So you have to be able to provide the basics for your family in every circumstance, in every situation.
bro, there was something that you remind me. There was a power cut back in the day, probably about a good 15 years ago, and everyone was just bamboozled. They didn't know what to do, and it was just a temporary city power cut, bro. It was like probably lasted for about 5 hours
Yeah,
or something like that, and then everyone
yeah,
forgot about. Okay, well, you still got your cooker, you still got your lighter, you still got your candles. All of
yeah,
these other things that you've spoken
yeah.
about basic survival necessities, just went out through the window. People were,
I don't know.
and bro, the crazy thing is this: in today's
People are so crazy.
and
So
even in
crazy.
today's society, if technology goes, you watch everyone just scatter like crazy, bro. They're like, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end. What are we gonna do? Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
They're gonna run to the supermarkets and just stock up on
yeah,
cooking
yeah.
oil and toilet paper.
That's it, bro.
That's what they'll
That's
do.
it.
They'll just
Yeah,
go and just buy a load of rice, toilet paper, and cooking oil. That's it. And that's what they did last time. Whenever COVID came along and there were
yeah,
lockdowns, everybody went out and just got loads of rice and sugar. And you're like I would have been going and buying survival gear. I would have been buying tents. You buy stoves. Because if it does get to that stage where you're going to run out of food, how long is that stuff
of
going to
course.
last you? Somebody can come into your house and take all that stuff for you, take it away from you. A fire in your house, all that stuff's gone. But if you've learned the skills, you can take those skills wherever you
Anywhere,
go.
bro.
In any situation, you've got those skills. You'll have those skills no matter where you go and what the circumstance. Once you've learned how to light a fire from nothing, no matter where you are, you know how to light a
Yeah,
fire. Whereas if you just walk around with a lighter going, it's okay, I've got a lighter, the lighter gets wet, you're
yeah,
buggered. Somebody takes it, you're buggered, it breaks, you're buggered, it runs out, you're buggered. But if you've got the skills of knowing how to light one from scratch, no matter where you go, you're always going to have that skill. So it's important on the fathers learning those skills themselves first before you have children. If it's come to light after you've had children, learn the skills with your children,
yeah,
sons and daughters. It's not just about sons, just about
yeah,
daughters. So the daughter never has to rely on a man in her life for the basics. If it ever came to a survival situation, she can survive by herself if she needs
yeah,
to. If she doesn't have a man, or the man is abusive, or the man is, holding her to ransom because of his skills, she never has to be held to ransom. She can go off independently and she can survive. She can hunt, she can cook, she can build her own shelter, and she can live by herself. Right? So, in fact, I would say it's more important to teach it to your daughters than your sons. Teach your kids basic skills. Then, after that, teach them character, kindness, generosity, looking after the weak, and looking after the elderly, looking after the poor. It's your responsibility to look after those who have less than you in society. Less, not just financially, but less in ability, less in time. If somebody's old, somebody's elderly, they've got less than you. They haven't got the strength to defrost their drive after snowfall. That comes down to you. That's now your responsibility. Teach the kids these skills. Teach them these, so that when they go out into the world, they're constantly looking for opportunities to make the world a better place. And the only way they'll do that is if they've seen that as an example at home in their father. So become the example for your children. I mean, that it all kind of boils down to that.
um,
Becoming the example.
and bro, would you say like see your the man foundry? That is the basic principle of what you stand for and represent. Is that what you
Yeah. So
kindness?
basically, that's the plan. I mean, we've only been online like 4 weeks
Yeah.
now. In fact, it's 4 weeks
Okay.
tomorrow. So we're still very
Yeah, yeah,
early
of
on.
course.
The plan is to get as much reach
Yeah.
as we can, get as many people on board as
Yep.
we can, and then to start doing these
Yeah.
things, to start setting up the
Yeah.
courses, to start teaching people survival
Yeah.
skills, start teaching people, doing charity projects within the
Yeah.
communities, doing feed the homeless project, doing help the elderly
Yeah.
projects. These are things we want to do for fathers, for mothers, for children, to all come together and help the men develop and help the girls develop from a young age, for them to know boundaries. And so even for daughters to know what characteristics she needs to look for in a man,
I
moving
understand. Yeah.
forward. It's not just about him being good looking and having a nice
Yeah.
car. Look for the characteristics that are going to make him a good
Yeah.
husband and a good father in future. So, the stuff that we're hoping that it's going to, over the next 6 months to a year, we can develop these courses. We're gonna set up certificates for people, training courses that people can
Yeah.
do prior to marriage. So a premarital course where somebody goes through a course over 4 weeks,
Yeah.
6 weeks in their own time, um, to teach them the basic skills and stuff in order for them to then be prepared and ready for marriage. So these are all
We
things
need
that are in
that.
the
Yeah.
pipeline. But in order for us to do that, we need to get the people on board. Once the people come
Yeah.
on board and we start getting some revenue off the social media, then we can use those funds to then put those things in
Into the
place.
projects and that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that.
So that's the plan. Then to put up on the shelf, yeah. And then to put up a shelf, someone said. But yeah, even the basic DIY
Yeah.
stuff, all of that kind of stuff. The men need to know this stuff, but the women too. But especially the man, as the head of the
Yeah.
household, they need to know these skills. And the most important thing is teaching them the foundations of faith, the real foundations, not just the practical bits, but the taqwa and the awareness of Allah and how to become a good, constructive member of your community. Teaching them those basics. That's like the most fundamental thing.